The sun had barely risen over the crowded streets of Manila when Althea's voice floated through the morning air. The melody, soft but strong, danced above the chatter of vendors and the rumble of jeepneys. Barefoot and dressed in a worn-out yellow dress, she stood beside her mother's fruit stand, arranging mangoes while quietly singing to herself. Her voice carried a kind of ache that made people stop for a moment, a voice far too big for such a small corner of the world. Music had always been Althea's escape. In their tiny home, built from patched wood and tin sheets, she would hum herself to sleep, dreaming of stages she had only seen on television. Her mother often told her, "Your voice is our treasure, Anak. One day, the world will hear you." But in their neighborhood, dreams were often traded for survival. Most days were spent helping at the market, washing clothes, and caring for her younger siblings. Still, whenever Althea sang, it was as if the world paused to listen. The neighbors would peek out from their windows, smiling, as she sang along to old Miley Cyrus songs she learned from a cracked cell phone. Wrecking Ball was her favorite, a song she felt deep in her heart, about breaking through pain and holding on to hope. That morning, as she sang those familiar lines, she didn't know someone nearby was recording her performance on their phone. A stranger who would later upload the video with the caption, "The voice that deserves the world." For Althea, it was just another day at the market, but for her destiny, it was the beginning of everything. The video of Althea singing in the marketplace spread faster than she could ever imagine. Within days, it had millions of views. People all over the world were calling her the girl with the golden voice. Talent scouts, vloggers, and even local TV stations tried to find her. When one representative from America's Got Talent reached out, Althea thought it was a joke. But when the official letter arrived, sealed and stamped, her mother broke down in tears. Selling fruits and saving coins, her mother had never thought they'd ever afford a dream like this. But the community came together. The Sari Sari store owner donated a suitcase, the local tailor fixed her only pair of shoes, and neighbors pitched in for her plane ticket. "Go make us proud," they said, handing her a small Philippine flag to take with her. At the airport, Althea felt a mix of excitement and fear. It was her first time leaving home, first time boarding a plane, first time seeing the city lights from above. She clutched a photo of her family, her mother smiling proudly, her siblings waving beside their fruit stand. When she finally arrived in Los Angeles, the world felt impossibly big. Backstage at AGT, surrounded by bright lights and confident performers in sequins and makeup, she stood quietly in her simple white dress. A producer noticed her and smiled. "You're up next, sweetheart," they said. Althea took a deep breath, her heart pounding. As the curtain rose and she stepped toward the stage, the sound of the cheering crowd grew louder. This was it, the moment her voice would meet the world. The lights dimmed, and a hush fell over the crowd. Althea stood center stage, clutching the microphone with trembling hands. The vast theater of America's Got Talent seemed to stretch endlessly before her, rows of faces, bright spotlights, cameras, and 4 judges who could change her life with a single word. Cowell leaned forward. "Hello there," he said, his familiar British tone both kind and curious. "What's your name, and where are you from?" Althea's voice quivered. "My name is Althea. I'm from the Philippines." The audience murmured softly, a mix of surprise and encouragement. Simon smiled slightly. "And what will you be singing for us today?" She took a small breath. "Wrecking Ball," by Miley Cyrus. The first notes of the piano echoed through the room, soft and haunting. Althea closed her eyes, and suddenly, her fear melted away. Her voice rose, pure and powerful, filled with emotion that could only come from a life of struggle and hope. Each word carried a piece of her story, her mother's sacrifices, her small home, her dreams whispered under the stars. By the time she reached the chorus, the crowd was on their feet. Some people cried openly. Even the judges looked stunned. Simon's usual stern expression softened into awe. When the last note faded, silence lingered for a breathless second before the theater exploded with applause. Simon leaned back, shaking his head in disbelief. "That," he said slowly, "was one of the most beautiful performances I've ever heard. Miley Cyrus herself would be proud." Althea's eyes widened, her hands covering her mouth. For the first time, she believed what everyone else already knew: she was born to sing. The theater seemed to pulse with emotion. For a moment, Althea just stood there, frozen, wide-eyed, the microphone trembling in her hands. The cheers from the crowd washed over her like a wave. She could see people in the audience wiping their tears, some shouting her name. The other contestants backstage watched the monitors in stunned silence, realizing they had just witnessed something unforgettable. Sofia Vergara clasped her hands together. "Althea, you have the most beautiful soul. I could feel every word you sang," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Howie Mandel nodded, smiling warmly. "That performance was magic. You didn't just sing that song, you lived it." Then Simon leaned forward again, his expression serious but his eyes soft. "Althea," he said, "sometimes, a person comes along who reminds us why we do this show. You came from halfway around the world, and you just gave us one of the most powerful auditions we've ever seen." The audience cheered louder. Althea could barely breathe. And then, the moment. Simon stood up, looked at his fellow judges, then pressed the golden buzzer. Gold confetti burst from above, raining down like 1,000 glittering stars. Althea gasped and fell to her knees, covering her face as tears streamed down. Her mother's face flashed in her mind, the market, the mangoes, the song. She wished her family could see her now. Simon walked up to the stage as the crowd roared. "You have a gift, Althea," he said. "Never forget where you came from, and never stop singing." Through her tears, she nodded, her heart overflowing. In that golden storm of confetti, the poor Filipino girl who once sang in the marketplace became a global sensation. The next morning, the world knew her name. "Filipino teen brings Simon Cowell to tears," the headlines read. Clips of her performance flooded the internet, millions of views, thousands of comments, and endless praise. Music stars shared her video, calling her the girl who sings from the soul. Miley Cyrus herself reposted the clip with a short caption, "This made me cry. So proud of you, Althea." Back in Manila, life came to a standstill. Her neighbors gathered around a small television in the sari-sari store, cheering and crying as they watched her golden buzzer moment replay on screen. Her mother sat in the front, clutching a handkerchief, her eyes shining with pride. "That's my daughter," she whispered, her voice trembling. "That's my Althea." News reporters visited their humble market stall, now decorated with yellow ribbons and photos of Althea's performance. Little children sang "Wrecking Ball" in the streets, pretending to hit the golden buzzer with their hands. For the first time, the whole community felt like they were part of something bigger, that their hope had a voice, and that voice belonged to one of their own. In Los Angeles, Althea sat in her hotel room, still in disbelief. She looked out the window at the bright city lights and whispered a quiet prayer of thanks. On the nightstand beside her sat the small Philippine flag her mother had given her. She picked it up, pressed it to her chest, and smiled. From the crowded streets of Manila to the grandest stage in the world, Althea had proven that dreams know no borders, only the courage to chase them. And somewhere across the world, Miley Cyrus watched with pride, knowing a new voice had risen, one that could move mountains.